whenever you are ready, I'm going to go ahead and hand things over to you, and you could present and take it over.
All right, so give me a second here to share my screen. All right. Okay. Let me just see who's on the call. So maybe before I get started, how much of an introduction to Copilot Studio Kit should I be doing? Maybe on the chat, let me know if you guys are familiar with the kit. I will go anyway. I'll give it a quick introduction. Anyway, my name is Medislawi Andalusi. Excited to be here today and talk to you guys about the latest version of the Copilot Studio that we just shipped. This is a little bit of a change of branding as well on the kit, but I wanted to kind of, before get started, remind folks here that have been with us and familiar with the CAT team, which is a team that sits within engineering that engage with customers and try to accelerate and block adoption for customers. So some of you might be familiar with some of the kits that we shipped in the past, like the Creator Kit or the LM Accelerator and COE Kit and whatnot. So, but the philosophy is always the same. We start at the incubation. We try to kind of get inspired by, or start at the root, at really like customer pain, right? So like any tool or experience we build is usually something that the solution architect on the team that is engaging with customers all over the world, like, is actually experiencing or discovering as they talk with customers. So a lot of the stuff that you have in the kit today, the Copilot Studio Kit I will talk about, is coming from that customer pain. And typically we try to build something that will be useful to that one particular couple of customers. And then when we see some success there, we try to mature it into a kit. And by mature, we mean like we take that asset that was produced by a solution architect or maybe a dev on the team, and then we make it into a we put it into GitHub. We have a monthly or a cadence that is regular for a release. We fix issues when they are reported in GitHub issues. So we try to have a little bit more maturity to that asset, and we keep a communication going with the dev team and the product team to incorporate some of the assets or some of the tools that we build in the kit into the product. And not everything we build makes it into product. Some stuff is really a customization of system that will only be a good reference implementation for customers. So it could be a sample, an implementation reference, as I mentioned, something that actually shows how to use the product from an API perspective, for example, to kind of achieve an extended process, right, or a customized process. And today I'll go through an example of that through the governance hub that we just shipped. So anyway, we do talk to product team to make sure the features that are more source requested and that are heavily used by our community in GitHub and app source, like from the kit, is actually make it to the product. And we then help customers transition whenever possible to actually use in-product features. And we leave the assets intact. We leave them there as a reference, as an example, again, in GitHub, and you'll see all of the history for all of those kits. So the latest release, I can't see the chat. So if you guys have any questions, please let me know over voice. Copilot Studio Kit, latest release has been a little bit revamped. You can see a new experience here, which makes it a bit clear, kind of the personas of the kit. So we we kind of divided the experience around those pillars here, the administration, governance, and productivity. Before, the kit was kind of a mixture of like experiences that you depending on whether you have the right permission, you will actually properly experience, or you just have a narrow vision. For example, agent inventory was one where you really, to experience the tenant-wide visibility of all your agents, you will need to go and be an admin. You will need to be an admin. So, like right now, the last release, we have two views, one for makers and one for the admin persona. So if the app was just shared with you with maker credentials or user credentials, you will have only a partial view of what you see, and you will only see the experiences that make sense for you. Um, as a maker. So this makes it hopefully easier and hopefully a good first step to kind of for administrators to install this maybe alongside the COE kit or in a particular environment, and then share the app globally with users. Um, I'll delve in a little bit more into the kit, but before, as usual, if you need a reminder of where to find it, you can always go to the admin center, and you'll see here a link to Copilot Studio Kit. You can see it from the marketplace or app source. And obviously, you can download the kit and look at all of the changes and all of the experiences that we're building and how we're building it, etc. But again, I think as you can see through the kind of the components, there are a few investments that we did in the product in the Copilot Studio Kit as a way to fill the gap and maybe extend some of the functionality that you already have in Copilot Studio proper in the PPAC or in the tooling itself. So and I will say this a few times, like along this talk, but like anytime you wanna, I think, start with the product, look at the analytics that are available in product, and you will probably be okay with what's offered out of the box. Agent inventory here, you will see in a minute here that um, it has a wider, properties that we are exposing that are not yet in the product. Some of the things that we chose to show as part of the experience might or might not make it as part of the PPAC, but it is an example of how we're using connectors and soon the inventory APIs to kind of extract additional data that we are interested in visualizing. So agent inventory is one of the experience that you'll find under the admin components. We have conversation KPI, which gives you a little bit of an insight on the performance of agents that you have. It's a dashboard and additional metadata and information about agents and how they performed. Conversation Analyzer is about taking conversation to the next level and using LLM and custom prompts to extract additional insights. So you are in this experience, you can actually ask any questions, you can actually create any prompt that will go and run against every conversation or a range of conversation that you select. And then you can extract anything you want, and this could be as random as like how many times a word is used, or how many times a user asks the same questions, or what are the sentiment for this overall 100 transcripts from conversations, things like that. So but that's just again to kind of give you a more handle of the how your agents are doing. And finally, the agent value summary is about classifying agents across your organization by type, behavior, value, things like that. So I'll stop, see if there's any.
Yeah, maybe just one quick question from Ralph.
Yep.
And he was asking, what kind of
Ralph.
environment should this be installed into? A common production, individuals installed to their own developer environments, etc.
No, this should be in environment product. Sorry, in the same environment. It's one environment that the admin controls. It could be the one where maybe they have their tooling, like the COE kit, if they have installed that. So one environment, and then you share it with other citizen or developer makers in the organization if you choose to. So, I mean, nothing prevents it from installing in every environment, but that's an overkill. So you just need it in one environment. Does that answer your question, Ralph? Maybe yes.
Makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to say it makes sense because especially if this is pretty much, if you're doing this, you probably should have done already the COE kit, the regular one as well. So I'm thinking that technically speaking, if they are put into the same environment, they should work well together and not going to fight, right?
Yeah, they won't fight. And
okay.
if the COE kit would make sense if you have need for cataloging the apps and flows that you have in your organization. This has been the focus has been Copilot Studio only, just to keep it light and focused. We might extend to M365 pretty soon and give you a view over that. But from our perspective, we needed to extract. We needed this as an example of as an example on how to extract additional data from your tables and things like that. But as you can see in the governance piece, this has extremely been this sort of additional metadata is what we use to drive some of our governance compliance or our what we call compliance thresholds. I'll talk about it in a minute.
All right, no problem. Go ahead.
Yeah. But here, the Copilot Studio Kit, as you can see for the inventory piece, we do expose a bunch more. And this is just a summarization. We give you things like authentication type, the AI features that have been used. And I'll demo that in a few minutes. Basically, we are going a bit beyond what the product does in terms of metadata. I think the product will add additional views and things like that. So very likely that as it is here, we might have a little bit of an edge over product. But again, we use the Copilot as a way to also inform us and give us a good clue about what sort of data that our customers need, and we feed that back to the product. So, but as you can see, it's beyond just the fact that we are giving more results. We actually use the same data that is in our inventory to drive this compliance component that I'm super excited to show today because we talk a lot about governance. There's a lot of talks about it and ideas and we might never get exactly what each organization has as a need, like really like in product. It's like a generalization of what we customers want, but what we are offering here is a way to kind of give you a set of configurable risk thresholds, configurations, basically, that you set as an admin that basically you can use to enforce compliance. So basically, and I'll show that in an actual examples, but the idea is that if you have a lot of makers out there creating agents, and you decide that as an organization we need a way to get notification to act on certain agent that might have been in violations that you as an organization have specific view of. For example, you might not want and you want to create an agent that is not authenticated. And you want a way for you, an automated way for you to get notification. You might want your makers to get a notification that first you are welcome to the, a welcome letter to kind of introduce them to the organization, but also like emails and notification telling them that, by the way, you need to kind of comply to this, our the configurations or the risk threshold that the company has. And that could be, for example, you have not authenticated your agent, or you haven't written tests against your agents, for example. You could decide whatever you think is important for a maker to get right for their agent. For example, you should not be using external, knowledge sources, for example, could be one example of a threshold. So basically, and I'll show that in a UI, in the experience, you could decide what are those risk factors that you have. You could just set them up and wait for your agents to your creators to create agents, and then you'll get notification. You'll get a way to enforce it. It gets enforced if they don't they don't address them within a particular SLA. But anyway, what we wanted here is just an example of how you can set the automation behind, a whole and orchestrate this whole mechanics of, you as an admin have an oversight over what gets created and a way to enforce certain things. And this hopefully will ease a little bit the concern around building, letting actually, people build agents without that additional oversight. And then, so that was the governance component. It's really just the governance hub right now, which includes settings and a bunch of flows and automation and team car and team notifications. And then we divided again. The last is that productivity bucket that we talked about. So we had administration. Let me go back to the UI. We had the bucket of admin, which contains agent inventory, conversation KPI, conversation analyzer, and agent. It's not here. The agent value tool. Agent value summary, and then we have governance, which is the governance hub right now. Then we might have more offerings down the line, and then productivity, which is what I'm talking about, which is what the kit used to have as well, which are experiences that make certain tasks easier today than they are, like the teaming, for example, for web chat playground is not straightforward, so that's why there is a web chat playground, allow you to team and a chat and have a sample output of what the kind of the snippet of is to kind of, and that you can just simply put in your site. Advanced testing, and we rebranded this. It was, I think, simply testing. It's advanced testing right now. I'll talk about it in a minute. Adaptive cards, which is just a gallery of cards that allow you to kind of get a jump start on creating adaptive cards for your chat. Prompt advisor to optimize your prompts. And then finally, an agent review tool where you could do a static analysis of your Copilot Studio agents. So patterns, anti-patterns, things like that. So going back to that advanced testing piece, the product has evals, and you can see more and more of the testing functionality that is in the kit. That up until now was only in the kit is gonna start showing up in product, and you can see here kind of a side in what's in product and what's in the Copilot Studio Kit. You will see this getting into the green pretty quickly over the next few months. We have other advanced features in the plan here that are going to be helpful for a set of customers and advanced customers, but they could actually be also the next set of features that might end up in the product in the long run. But again, the same advice. Anytime you need to do testing of your agent, go use the product features first, and if they don't do what you need, and if you need advanced kind of testing, an example of that, you have adaptive cards in your tests on your agents, and you want to be able to test that. Right now, it's only in Copilot Studio Kit. But that's the advice, like go to the product, use it, might do everything you need. And if it doesn't, go to the kit and then you extend it and let us know, because once we know that has a priority in terms of going into the product. This is just the web chat playground as an example. I'll stop here before and get started with some of those things, showing those things in action. If there is any question.
No questions, but later you need to check out the chat. Medi, Joe, Scully made an amazing power cat, which I'm obsessed with right now.
Cool, cool, cool. All right, cool. So I'll just show the experiences so far. As I mentioned, it's a bit of a revamp. You can actually go to the administration tab with a little bit of links to documentation that now is in the learn Microsoft.com. Well, not this particular pointer, but the Copilot Studio documentation is now live in the product. This is a demo environment. Actually, the actual copy that went out shows here the links to the documentation for Copilot. Yeah. Let me go here, and then I'll open it here as well. I'll open the solution. This is what you get, I guess, when you download the solution from App Source or install it. You get the app. You can access from many places, and I'll run it as well from here. Continue. So go into the agent inventory that we talked about real quick. And there is new features here that we shipped around, giving you more insights. And let me go to an interest. See if there's anything here, and I'll go here. So again, inventory gives you a view over all of the agents that you have across tenant. It gives you a usage over time. And it gives you a bunch of other things around like generative answers, users, things like that. So we added users metrics and just in an effort to give you some more insight about how much those agents are consuming. As well, we also give you a list of features being used within your agent. So again, these are the sort of things that you might not find right away in the or won't find in the PPAC. But start with there, and then if it doesn't, I'll get all of the information. Come to the kit and see what sort of things are being exposed. But here, like you can get all of the knowledge source, the prompts used, triggers, or whatever connections that might have been used in your agent. But yeah, so that's kind of some additional things that we added for this release. And I was gonna create. Let me attempt a live demo here. But if we run out of time, I will just talk over it, but I'm gonna create an agent here real quick just to demonstrate a little bit what happened when you and I'm gonna call it what should I call it? Tech Talk agent. I'm just gonna create it and see what happens in terms of like agent inventory and then the actual compliance hub that I want to demo today. Okay, so I'm gonna pretend for a minute here I am a maker. I just created an agent. I saved it. I want to know from an admin point of view what happens to this agent. How can as an admin I have a view over this. Going back to my experiences here, and so I'll actually sync this agent. This is actually something that happens on a regular cadence for the demo. I'll just sync it. It takes a couple of minutes. We'll wait for that. I think as that's happening, let me go to the compliance hub. So I created an agent. The inventory gets synced. So in theory, we should see in a few minutes that new agent called Tech Talk show up. It did already. We can actually go through it. Again, this is an inventory, didn't do anything new. There's nothing here that's special. I didn't create any. Those are defaulted by, they are yes by default, but those are features that are on by default. There is nothing here specific to this agent, but it showed up here as a new agent that got created. Now the compliance hub, which is new, is where things get interesting. Right now, this is about, can we use that as an example of, you as an admin, what can you do? So I'll refresh this and then see if it shows up. This takes a little bit of time. But I talked earlier about some thresholds and configurations. I'm gonna go show you a little bit I should actually go and delete this guy. It's part of a So I'll go to the thresholds again, and then just talk about some of the configuration that you could actually add. Right now, I'm looking at agents that are not, I'm looking at some threshold around whether an agent hasn't been doesn't have authentication or has been set to have no authentication. I'm looking at agent that might have been built in production environments right away, or agent that are using prompts, for example. And I can define the risk factor for whether if that threshold gets passed, right? If that gets violated. So as a result of this, anytime when we scan through the agent inventory and we find any of those flags, any of those things that don't fit basically this requirement here, we flag it, and we flag it depending on whether it's medium, low, or high risk. We can set, an SLA for the maker to go and fix this, to basically fix those low priority items. We can give them any number of days. If it's medium, we can give them 3 days. If it's and we can say, if you don't fix it within 3 days, we're gonna quarantine that particular agent. We could decide to be hardcore and delete an agent that's presented any high risk that I might have set in my table. And we have a bunch of other configuration around Teams and email and notification templates of how you want to do the welcome email for your agents. So if you have someone who it's the first agent created, very similar again, for those who are familiar with the COE kit, the welcome letter is a good way to kind of show the companies, like community groups that exist, resources, stuff like that. So that's what the welcome letter, that again, you can edit as well as you see fit. Going back here, and let's refresh. If it's not here, I'll just, the tech talk showed up here, showed up twice to find out why. Here, I can ask the maker. So here I had a flag where I want to review it before I actually send it to the maker. I know how much, please keep me honest with time, Kelly, just in case. But as a maker, I would get, like a notification. I'll get an email. I'm set up here as a maker and admin, so let's see what happens. So I can send this to my maker that created, to letting them know you need to kind of act on this case, do something about it. They would get a notification here to kind of add a business education. This is for demo purposes. I don't know if I spelled it right. My copy hasn't talk demo. That's a classification. Now we're gonna say it's like public, and then it's handled. Users are gonna use it, for example. So I'm a maker. I got a notification that somehow I need to add additional justification for my case. Why did I get this? Is because if we look at the actual compliance hub, you can see here that when I created that agent, it was in a production environment. As a maker, I could have, as an admin, I could have actually approved it or rejected right away. I might have said fine or quarantined right away. But I won't do any of that. I sent instead a notification to the maker. They got it. It's a law. It's not a big deal. I guess it's a law requirement here. It's fine. I'm gonna actually submit this justification. At this point, again, notification happens, and an admin could be made aware of this. You can see here that this is for a Tech Talk demo. I'm gonna actually approve it just to show that path. At this point, this maker would have gotten also a notification your case has been approved, and they can actually go and continue working on this stuff as much as they want. If they happen again to do something where perhaps now they made this chat unauthenticated, you can see here that I got a notification. Well, you can see it on the screen. But as a maker, I got a text message here, your case has been approved. Yes, so as a maker, I can continue working on it. For some reason, I decided to make this unauthenticated. I'm going to save it. And again, this would have happened over days, right? I'm a maker, I continue working on it. I might violate something down the line. So the automation happens every day. You could set the frequency, obviously. Now, if we if that's compliance runs, it will look at the at this particular case, and we'll wait a couple of minutes here to show what happened. But I'll just skip to an example of that. That particular case will have now switched to, sorry, I should switch to a case where it's actually at a medium risk. And I can see as an admin, again, all of the violations, and there's no authentication in this, I can decide to quarantine right away. Or if I don't do anything within that SLA that we have here, and that again can be adjusted, this can become like this can be like after 3 days of me as a maker not doing anything, this agent will be quarantined. So I will go back and done. Okay, so I'm reading the questions right now.
Yeah,
Ralph, go ahead.
I was going to say I think there's two. Maheshwar is getting an error during install, so I was curious if this is supported by Microsoft support at all.
No, this is the same support that we have always given. Please reach out if you have any issues. It's in GitHub issues file there. We triage those frequently. So please let me know what errors you might have seen during install. Okay, I see you have put it. Okay, I will definitely get back to you, Tayal, on that. We haven't heard of this before, so. But again, we just shipped a few days ago. Model-driven apps, I haven't used model-driven. Sorry, I haven't used Gen pages, unfortunately, because they are on a US GA. So all of this experience you see here is a Fluent UI-based Canvas app or custom page. Going back to our case, I want to show. See if it's actually yet running. Okay, not yet. But at some point, again, it will become medium risk, and then those things will actually the agent will be in a quarantine state. You get here a timeline of everything that's happened. Again, this is an example of, as an organization, if you are opening up your agent building to you open a Copilot Studio to many agents, and you want a little bit of an oversight, This is an example of how you can set that up, and you can get a view over all of the agents that are at high risk, the one that are breaching SLA, active cases, all of that additional goodness, just to kind of get a bit more peace in mind, you know, and that's the agent hub. Yes, you can quarantine the agent, whoever is asked. You can also delete the agent. And okay, that is it for that one. Compliance Hub is the new feature that we shipped earlier. Agent inventory has additional usage data that we're exposing. Yeah, other smaller features and fixes we did in this release, but happy to answer any questions, show other tools if anyone is interested. For the agent hub, so the question that was just asked for the agent hub admin experience that we just talked about, it is only the admin that need premium experience. We made sure that everything that gets sent to the maker doesn't require an app, so they don't need a Power Platform or have access to an app or anything like that. They can just fill up their forms in line here. And Ralph, everything I'm building is on top of the Creator Kit components. So a lot of these are actually charting controls in the Creator Kit, the Fluent List control. Yeah, so.
This is great, Maddie. Any questions or comments? I see there's one that just came in. Is there any aspect for data security built into the new tool?
Can you elaborate a bit more the question?
And both feel free to come off and mute or just put that in the chat and we'll get that answered.
So the data that we export, that we're gathering for agent inventory, only admins and the security role that we shipped. So we shipped 2 security roles in this release. So only the Power Platform admin has access to read this data. The maker role doesn't have access to all of those experiences that. Let me read.
And Mehdi Ebosa was saying he was looking at movement of data between internal and external sources.
Interesting. No, we don't have anything there. But I'm curious how that. So basically detecting whether someone is actually taking internal sources and somehow. No. Yeah, but I wonder if that's DLP kind of, maybe I'll follow up offline on this one, ask more questions. If we can.
That'd be great. And I'll get the contact information over to you, Mehdi.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions, comments, or feedback for Mehdi? All right, Mehdi, any closing remarks?
No, please let us know feedback, anything. Again, the goal is to help kind of unblock certain things and give you a bit more, if you need things that will make your life easier, always happy to hear that. So
amazing. Thank you so much, Mehdi. We appreciate you joining us as always. And for those of you still on the call, please stay on the call. I just need about 10 minutes of your time, but I did want to talk a little bit about our FastTrack Recognized Solution Architect program. So give me 1 second to just bring up my screen. And if you could all let me know when you could first see this slide, that would be great. For those of you who aren't aware, our FastTrack Recognized Solution Architect, or FTRSA program, is an annual recognition program that Microsoft runs that really celebrates solution architects within partner organizations who are doing amazing work on implementations and other for Dynamics 365 and Power Platform. And the way that this works is every year we open up a nomination period. This opened up last week and will run to March 3rd. And essentially, if you go to that link, which we'll put in the chat window, we finally have a website, woohoo, before we just had the architects profiles page who actually got this recognition. This year, we have a web portal that talks a little bit about what is the FTRSA program, how many architects that have won this distinction so far, which we have 174 architects from over 84 partner organizations. And if you go to these links, you can view who these individuals are. And the way you can become an FTRSA is twofold. And apologies, all my connection is a little slow today, so I'll show you the architects in just a moment. But what you're going to want to do is come to this page and review the requirements for the categories that you're looking to apply for. So we have Power Platform and we have Dynamics 365. The thing to note this year, in years past, we had separate categories for Power Apps and Automate. This year, we're combining that into one category. So there's just a Power Platform recognition, which you could get. And essentially, when you're filling out the actual nomination form, there's a few things that you're going to see. One, there's, of course, all the standard Microsoft text talking about what the program is, what it means to become an architect. And then it'll also give you some information on why you would want to nominate. One of the biggest things is you have the ability to be featured on our product web pages as Microsoft recognized FTRSAs. So you'll see all of the pool of folks who have gotten this recognition last year. And you're also eligible to keep that in all of your promotional material to customers, etc. You get an e-badge, Credly badge that you could share on LinkedIn showing that you are a Microsoft FTRSA. And then we also provide you with benefits such as quarterly communication channels or Ask Me Anythings with our product and leadership teams. So just a great opportunity not only to showcase to customers and the public alike that you've gotten this distinction, but also you have the ability to provide feedback directly to Microsoft product and leadership teams. There's a few things that I want to make sure everyone is aware of. Both renewing FTRSAs and those who are net new who want to apply for the first time need to make sure you're completing the nomination form and meeting the requirements by March 3rd. So we're giving an ample amount of time to actually get that nomination in. But it's super important not to wait till last minute. Some of the requirements that you need to meet is having published reference architectures or technical stories, customer and partner stories, etc., which take quite some time internally at Microsoft for us to review. So you're going to make sure you start that process early. And I'll show you just for Power Platform. Here are the requirements. So you have to have the Solution Architect certification. You have to have at least one published reference architecture or technical sample for the product that you are actually applying for. So if that's Power Apps, Power Automate, or Power Pages, you would want to make sure that you are kind of distinguishing and showing what ones or which categories you're doing. And then the last thing is we need to see that you have customer engagement within the last 12 months through a customer or partner success story that is published on our Microsoft platforms, or an ongoing engagement on the implementation portal. So we do have, and I know I'm going pretty fast through all this, but we have two things to help you with this process. One, the webpage, again, that talks about all of the nomination and requirements, but then we also have an FAQ that will answer a lot of your questions in terms of what does the process as a whole look like? Where do I go to actually publish these reference architectures or technical samples or customer stories? The one thing I will note, this website is beautiful, but there's a few things that we're fixing right now. So those updates will be in by the 10th. There's still nothing that should be holding you back from going in and kind of reviewing all the eligibility requirements, etc. So I think the main ask is please go and review all of that information. If you have questions about the renewal and or nomination process, feel free to reach out. But again, really great program, really great opportunity to showcase the work that you're doing. So let me just pause there, see if there's any questions. And if not, please take a look and get nominating as soon as possible. Any questions, comments?
Hi, Kelly. I have one question. I tried to log in, but it's not letting me log in. I'm not sure if the same experience is for others.
Ooh, excellent. And is that when you're going to the actual nomination for D365 and you're doing the sign-in part?
Correct. Yeah. So it looks like it's some Power Pages and that link, the login says you do not have this.
And are you hitting just this first login or the work account? I'm wondering which one is providing that experience, and I'll go back to the team and let them know.
Is the work account when I click on it? Yeah.
Okay.
When I click on the work.
None of them
Got-
work actually.
Are others getting that as well? Because either way, we'll go back.
I'm
getting either.
yes, I'm getting the same error. Yep.
Ooh, okay, perfect. I'm glad this is being raised. We will bring that to the team right away and get that resolved all. One thing to call out as well, I mentioned for Power Platform, there's one category this year, which is just Power Platform. It is different for Dynamics 365. There are two distinct categories, so CE and AI ERP. So you could apply for either one of those. The other question folks may have is, can I apply for both the Dynamics 365 and the Power Platform recognition? The answer is yes, as long as you are fulfilling and can fulfill the requirements for both of those. Perfect. Okay, I see more logins. So Hassan, please, if we could just take note of that and make sure we get that to the web team ASAP, that would be great. All right, any other questions or comments? All right, well, with that, we're super excited to have you all applying once we fix the bug to the program. And if there are any questions on FTRSA as you go through this, feel free to reach out to me, Kelly Piper, which is kellyp@microsoft.com. Until then, everybody, we will talk to you next week where we'll have another great topic lined up for you. But I appreciate everyone tuning in and hope you all have a great day ahead. Thanks, everyone. Bye, all.